How much of your superiors explained to you, Constable?
Only that the three were slain in open ground, their heads found severed from their bodies.
Their heads were not found severed. Their heads were not found at all.
Taken. Taken by the Headless Horseman. Taken back to hell.
Just in time to have your head cut off. The horseman comes! And tonight he comes for you!
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Bears Presents, the Bear Cave of Terror. I'm your hairy, heavy homo and horror fan host, Steve Morey. Each week here in the Bear Cave, I invite a horror-loving guest who brings with them one of their favorite scary movies. It can be classic, gory, trashy, obscure, well-known, or maybe something banned in Britain. In other words, a thrilling work of cinematic terror that we think that you might enjoy. In each episode, we'll dig into the flesh and bone of the film, highlighting our favorite scary moments, as well as stories and details from beyond the screen, all while our guest imparts their deep and possibly concerning love for this week's frightful vision unto you, our dear listener. And with me today is the wonderful, the talented, the oh-so-cool Jon Runyan, Jon on Demand. Jon, welcome. Welcome to the Bear Cave.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And for tonight, for the listeners that aren't seeing this on video, I did change my name to really fit in, to get my Sleepy Hollow passport. So I am Jon Van Demand tonight.
Jon Van Demand.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you've become Dutch. So, well, what movie are we going to be talking about tonight? Because when you first, gave me your suggestion, I was like, yes. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yes.
I'm sure you are too.
Yeah.
Which movie?
So I picked, I don't know if many people have heard of this one. I'm not sure. But for me, it's always been kind of a joy to tune into and check out. And so we're talking Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow.
Tim Burton's 1999 classic.
Mm-hmm. And I am very, very, very excited to be here and get to talk about this film with you, Steve. So thank you again for having me on. And I'm even drinking the Sleepy Hollow Red tonight in honor of the fallen. So I'm very excited.
That is wonderful. I have a cup of water because because I'm that cool. But also, I get a little verklempt when I talk and I have to get some water to lubricate it.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so what we normally do here on the show is we kind of do a quick summary of the film, just like a quick pitch summary of the film, for those people who may not have seen it before, and for people who maybe it's been a while since they've seen it. And for everyone else, it's like, you know what? You can always hear what the movie's about again. It brings back memories when you've already seen it a half dozen or 1,000 times. So, Jon, could you tell us what Sleepy Hollow is about?
Well, Sleepy Hollow, first of all, the main message to me is be nice to your neighbors. That's a joke. Don't be nice to your neighbors. Unless they're cool, then be nice to them. But no, this is it blows my mind that this film has really held up. Story-wise, Ichabod Crane is sent over to the small town of Sleepy Hollow because there's been a series of people getting their heads lopped off mercilessly, and the small town is all like, oh my gosh, it's kind of a big deal for the times. And so he is dispatched out there where we meet, I call them kind of this ring of snooty patooties. I don't know, like small town living. There's always those people that sit in the front pew of church, or they are the pastor, which in this case, yes. But there's always that ring of people, that really shape a community. And sure enough, there they are. And, you got some supporting characters as well. I don't know. Personally, for me, MVP for the film is actually the Headless Horseman's horse. I think that poor horse takes a lot of the brunt. But in a nutshell, Ichabod Crane is doing his investigative magic. I personally adore his approach to thinking and how critical he is. And you see a little bit of that in this investigation that he was conducting towards his superiors who were like, no, you're wrong. Don't worry about it. Oh, hey, you're really good at your job. We're going to send you this way because we don't want you here. And so I personally got a kick out of rewatching it. It's been a while since I've watched this film. But I think that will spoil the heck out of it. I don't want to spoil it right now because we're going to get into it anyways. But
yeah. Side note, I do a lot of, reading of articles and whatnot every time we watch a movie, to just kind of get more context for the making of the film. And one of the things I read was Tim Burton had mentioned when he thought about actually making this film, he thought he had read the book. He thought he had actually read Washington Irving's original story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And he hadn't. And everyone that he talked to was like, oh, yeah, I read that. And then came to find out that no, nobody's actually, or none of the people that he was working with initially had actually read it. But the idea of it is so kind of ingrained in American culture that we know here's Ichabod Crane. He's some guy. He's kind of like easily scared and spooked. And he goes to the small town, Sleepy Hollow. Something happens to him, and then he's chased by a headless horseman. Right. And that kind of happens in this movie, but there's so much more to it. He fleshes it out completely, where you've got, instead of Ichabod Crane being like a school teacher that's coming to this small town, it is a turn of the 18th to 19th century police detective, police constable, who's, going to be investigating these murders of all these people who have become a few inches shorter. Yeah. And
just a few.
While there, he falls in love. He gets wrapped up into a small town family-based conspiracy, and of course has to confront the fact that his whole life and his whole focus is one of pure logic and reason. And here's the supernatural slapping about the face, saying like, no, there's way much more out here than just your books and your theories. Like we got ghosts, we got goblins, we got magic, fairy spells. Like we got all this stuff for you. And I think that taste of, the gothic and the supernatural, but in sort of a fun and a little bit kooky way, is very Tim Burton. And I thought that like this story, being able to change the story from like the one that we all kind of think we know to this one that is a lot more fleshed out and a lot more interesting, than what I think some people have seen, like the old Disney cartoon from like the 50s or 60s, like that's kind of like the, everybody's main experience with this, other than possibly reading the story it's based on.
Yeah.
But there even was like a little shout out to the Disney cartoon as well. Like when Ichabod's walking across a bridge on the horse and he hears the frogs going, Ichabod, 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 right out of the cartoon. I thought this was so much fun. And the story gets crazy and twisted. So it plays with the mystery and plays with like this whole little host of characters. I love your, like it's every small town's main group. It's the PTA. It's the HOA. It's they're the ones running the show.
Oh, people,
and supernatural beings resurrected from hell. The usual.
Yeah, another day.
One of the things that I love about it is the fact that you get the atmosphere right away.
Yes.
So like even in New York, things are just kind of gritty and dark and shadowy. And then he gets to Sleepy Hollow and it's all of that, but like sparsely populated.
Yeah.
And there's creepy things. There's people closing their windows. There's, everything just looks covered in mist and gloom and, just looks worn, even though this is 1799. The country's not that old. This town, it's not that old, and yet everything looks like it's just about to like fall apart or
absolutely
or just rot.
That's
including some of the people.
That's one of the things that really pulled me in though right away. To your point, the environments that they put into the film were just spectacular. That rolling fog, I mean, geez, if it was like a legit fog machine that they used, I don't even want to know what the bill is on that, because they crushed it with it. It was beautiful from start to finish. I loved all the sets. I loved the lighting. I loved angles that were used. And just how intimidating and dreadful they made the Headless Horseman was just brilliant. The horse riding scenes were lovely. I loved it all. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, the horse does a lot of heavy lifting here, jumping in and out of trees.
Exactly. Yeah.
Heavy footsteps.
Probably took a couple bullets because those guns can't fire for the life of them. But it's also a hellbound horse, so I'm sure he doesn't care. But
exactly.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things with the characters that they present us with, so you get the sort of the background council, and then you have Baltus Van Tassel, the richest man in town. Now that the other richest man in town, the Baron Garrett, father and son, have both been murdered by the Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool, quick appearance by Martin Landau, who had been in Tim Burton's Oscar-nominated masterpiece Ed Wood as Bela Lugosi. So he makes a quick appearance in this as well. And there's a lot of like interesting names and people who appear in this. So the guy who plays Baltus Van Tassel is Michael Gambon, Dumbledore from Harry Potter. I mean, that's I think where most people know him now, but like he had been making movies for decades prior to that. Yeah. His first movie was like Othello in 1965. He was a well-known British performer, but you also have Christina Ricci, who plays his daughter, who's also the love interest, and she has a very interesting look about her. And there was a joke on this where Tim Burton was asked why he put Christina Ricci, famous brunette, in a long curly blonde wig. Mm-hmm. And he eventually admitted because he loved to see Christina so uncomfortable in this crazy wig. Oh, he was like, that is not her. It completely changes her look. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, but I thought I got a kick out of that. It was a hoot.
That's kind of messed up.
I mean, he did the same thing to Winona Ryder in Edward Scissorhands too. He gave her like that weird straw, dry, like blondish, reddish wig. Sure. And I'm like, Winona Ryder, also famous brunette. Made her blonde. Oh man. But she's great. Miranda Richardson as the Lady Van Tassel, and her sister. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of like, that's the scene where they were both on there. I'm like, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then of course the Headless Horseman himself, when he makes his appearance, is Christopher Walken. And you do see him in full flashback before he loses his head. Yeah. And then, of course, you see him afterwards when his head is restored. And I think that is just, it's one of the coolest, like cameos that they could have had for something like this. Like Christopher Walken. That the filed, like pointy teeth and the crazy blue eyes. It's just glorious. But there's also some really cool other cameos. Two in particular, from longtime Hammer film contributors. So the talented and illustrious Christopher Lee makes his appearance early in the movie as the judge who sends Ichabod to Sleepy Hollow to begin with. And then, of course, you've got Michael Gough, who also was in the 1958 Hammer film Horror of Dracula, a.k.a. Dracula, as Arthur. So both of them make appearances in this film, which is just wild. Michael Gough also went on to act in Tim Burton's Batman as Alfred. And then, of course, you've got Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane.
And in his element, too. 100% in his element. Yeah.
Weird and quirky and awkward and full of himself, but also just a complete mess.
And I will say too that like the environment was one thing. The soundtrack does not play around. Like I'm very passionate about Danny Elfman tunes in general. I really, really, really dug this movie when I first saw it and when I first heard the music. And so coming back to it and getting to revisit it was just such a joy for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Danny Elfman working with Tim Burton for so many movies. they work so well together. And this really was such a great score. The costumes was another thing that I absolutely just, and I'm not normally a costume person, but there was something about these that just really piqued my interest. And we're not so much talking about the men's costumes, because they never change their clothes. They don't. Like, Johnny Depp has the exact same outfit on, the exact same costume, the entire movie.
He didn't have any checked bags. I mean, what are you gonna do? Exactly.
You know, he didn't want to lose any luggage. You know. Which, you know, there's a story, there's a real story reason why he doesn't have more than one outfit. Yeah. Or most of the people don't have more than one outfit, because that's kind of the way things were. You know, if you didn't have a lot of money, you didn't have a lot of clothes either. Yeah. But Katrina Van Tassel and Lady Van Tassel, every single scene, they're wearing something different.
That's right.
And each time, these dresses are huge. They're elaborate. There's tons of, you know, taffeta and curls and all sorts of things all over them. Yeah. All these embellishments that just look really fantastic. And Colleen Atwood designed the costumes. She'd worked with Tim Burton before on other movies, and she just totally got him. And of course, at the very, very end, what is Christina Ricci wearing but a black and white striped dress, very reminiscent of Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Another Tim Burton film. Yeah. He really likes those black and white stripes. Like, those are his thing. But yeah, the costumes were just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this movie, I mean, we talk about like a lot of things with the movie, but the film itself, what to you was like the most scary or the most terrifying or like the most atmospherically like moment or scenes that put you on edge?
Yeah.
You know, that just gave you that kind of feeling.
Well, there actually was one. I completely forgot this happened. So to the viewers and listeners, sorry, I have seen this, I promise you, but for this, it's been a while. And so it was the redhead dude and the wife. And the guy, you know, gets his head lopped off first, then the mom. The kid was put in a crawl space under the house, and so the Headless Horseman was walking out with mom and dad's heads, but then turns around and ends up getting the kid too. And I was like, no way, no, they're not going to do that. And then they did that, and I was like, oh man, I haven't seen this in a minute. And so I felt so bad for that little kid, but I'm like, you know, hey, if you're on the list, you're on the list. I'm really sorry. I don't know.
All in a service for the horror gods. They got to get their victims in.
I can't believe that happened though, and that had me on the edge of my seat. Like, no way, no. And then it did, and I'm like, ah, you know. And so that part got me because I forgot that happened to the poor kiddo. So I don't know.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So what about you?
So I love Tim Burton movies, so I've seen a lot of Tim Burton movies, and there's one thing that he did in a lot of his films in the 80s and the 90s. So I'm thinking back to, like, say, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then, of course, Beetlejuice. And it's this thing where one character has a crazy eye thing, where something just, the face just goes, and, like, out at the camera. And there's a moment where Ichabod is in the cave of the old witch, who happens to be Lady Van Tassel's identical twin sister, and she's channeling the other. And her head's down, and he sort of leans, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And then her head pops up, and it's two eyes and a snake-like tongue, just, you know, like right at the screen, right at you, and just that. The first time I saw that, I immediately was like, "Whoa, okay." But it's a Tim Burton staple. You got to have a character, like, you got to have your Large Marge moment, you know? Yeah. And that for me was a good scare.
Yeah. That poor kid.
Oh. That poor kid, yeah. He almost escaped alive after being horribly traumatized.
Do you think that, like, if he hadn't have moved at all, that the Headless Horseman would still know to get him? Because intrinsically, it's, like, drawn to his targets. Mm-hmm. I don't know the answer to that. I feel like maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the lore, is that even if he doesn't see the person, he knows that they're there, and he'll continue to go until they're done. Mm-hmm. That is one thing I really do appreciate about this movie. it's not traditionally gory, but you have full camera view of everybody getting their heads chopped off.
Yes.
Like the head is flying towards the camera and stump is on full display.
Yep.
Every time.
Yep.
And when Brom gets eviscerated, like you see one half of his body go one way and the legs go the other, and you're just, the camera doesn't pull away from any moment except for the kid, the little boy. You don't see him getting beheaded at that point, but you see his parents getting sliced up, you get everything.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the cool things about the color in this movie, because everything's got a blue filter on it. So everything's very subdued and gloomy, except for blood.
Yeah.
And the blood is so red. It's so thick and drippy and bright. Because you use a blue filter, they couldn't use red blood. So all the blood that you see was actually bright orange.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So all the blood was actually just orange, and with the blue filter, it made it this vibrant red. And it's unrealistic red. Like, blood doesn't look like that.
Yeah. And if it does...
But it was very Hammer horror. Like, if you watch a Hammer movie, the red is so red, and it looks so fake. It's so vibrant and vivid. You're like, blood.
Can we,
blood everywhere.
On the blood note too, I just want to give a shout out to the tree. That was quite the tree. Like chopping into it, and it's like meaty and pulpy and bloody, and I was like, that's nice. That's a nice set right there. I love that whole thing. The little grave with the sword in there. Like, oh, chef's kiss. Yeah, it's like my spooky Excalibur moment. Like, I just need that. Like, I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and the heads just sort of like parting.
Yeah.
As the horseman comes leaping out on his horse. So there's a moment there with the heads where he opens up the tree for the first time. He pulls the bark aside, and all the heads sort of crowd into the hole that's left.
Yeah.
And that reminded me, again, of another episode of Bear Cave of Terror where I was talking with Bill about Jaws. There's a moment in Jaws where they're diving underwater, and there was a gentleman, a Mr. Gardner, who had gone missing in his fishing boat, and it was his fishing boat, and there in like one of the gaps, like his head just sort of rolls into view, and you're like, and that's like this, but there's so many heads.
Yeah.
So many heads.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just overall though, like this is something I would recommend anyone to check out during spooky season, especially. Just overall, just fun, spooky. I don't know. And it's not over the top gory, in my opinion. I mean, I know heads are flying and people get cut in half and little kids go missing from crawl spaces. I get all that. Bloody trees, gardening, whatever. But at the end of the day, compared to like a Saw movie or something, we're not seeing intestines everywhere. It's done with a sense of creativity, but also enchantment. And that's why I really like it, because it has that rich lore to it. And I think that there's ways to tell a story. Just like with comics, I don't need to see like, the insides of our chest every single panel or anything to get to the point that, oh, there's a tragedy, kind of a thing. And so that's why I really dig this film. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and plus, like you kind of alluded to it there. It's the fantasy of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is horror, but there's an element of some kind of wonder and fantasy that goes in with it. And I think we haven't mentioned it at all, but these flashbacks that Tim Burton put in of Ichabod as a small child and his mother, played by Lisa Marie, who happens to be a child of nature, a.k.a. a witch. And you see her flying through the air, playing with flowers and just being just this really sort of ethereal, fairy-like presence. And very similar to Christina Ricci's character, just in the way that she sort of floats through things, and everything's so breathy, the way she talks, and, she's into spells and incantations, and, and this is kind of an image that doesn't usually get seen in a horror movie. You don't usually see sort of this sort of beautiful fairy-like ethereal imagery as much in most horror films, but this kind of gothic horror it's not just dark and gloomy. There's some stuff in here that's really beautiful and light and wondrous.
Yeah.
And of course, it had to be cut short, where you have that nightmare that he wakes up from. His mother is put into an Iron Maiden and comes popping out with a river of blood, which was interesting because I did with this, one of the films that inspired this, other than, the look of Hammer films and things like that, one of the main inspirations was Black Sunday. It was 1960, Mario Bava, and I watched that after watching this movie. And one of the characters, a vampire witch, who's hundreds of years old, she has the mask of the demon nailed to her face. And when it's taken off, she has all of these holes where the nails were. And in that scene where Lisa Marie pops out of the Iron Maiden, she has the same holes on her face from the nails from inside the contraption.
And I was going to say, too, that just that presence, because I think the term actually was used of white magic in the film. And I thought that was really cool, too, because, there's a lot of pieces from this time period that they're depicting that it's not acknowledged or stated at all. So those that do call it out, I actually really dig that. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the white magic of Christina Ricci's character and Lisa Marie's character versus the black magic of Miranda Richardson's character.
Mm-hmm. And also, on the black magic note, also just sowing those oats in the forest with randos and smearing blood on their back and stuff. Like, man, yeah, she was on a mission. Yeah,
she was on a mission, a slutty, like
just a forest
headless
romp.
horseman using mission.
Yes, yes.
And of course, she does have her massive villain reveal. And I do like that. It's campy. It's over the top.
Yeah.
Like her delivery of it, like she doesn't have to give the whole story. Like we've already kind of pieced it together. Ichabod Crane's pieced it together, but she has to give us the whole story from beginning to end. And like, oh, my sister? Yeah, I chopped her head off too. Woo!
Yeah.
But she, she plays over the top, screw loose villain so well, and she goes from like cool as a cucumber, overly prim and proper and icy to just wild. Like her hair is so tight and pulled back the entire first part of the movie, but as the cracks start appearing and as the clues start coming in, you start seeing like hair coming loose, and by the end she's got like her hair is all out of the bun and just wild and flowing, and her dress is wild and crazy. And note about her dress, everything else in that movie is kind of like 1780s. Mm-hmm. A little bit behind the times because it's a country village. So they're not like all the latest fashions of New York. Mm-hmm. So they're like 15, 20 years behind the times fashion-wise. But that last dress that she's wearing, that's a dress that is apparently in a painting from 1560, 1561, something like that. And that almost exact same dress. So it's like this old inspired, like 400, well, at that point, I guess it was only, 200 years old, but it was definitely something that was like a much older dress and just sort of like shows her going from the, super wealthy fashion to like kind of, like a crazy witch, basically.
Kind of her outing her story and stuff like that. And that reminded me of the one set that needs a little bit of love here and call out, aside from the Misty Forest, that darn windmill. Oh, it was gorgeous. Just everything, the interior, the exterior, just the look of it, the feel of it. Hey, let's jump on the windmill blades and let's jump to the ground and set the whole thing on fire. Like, the whole thing. I love a creepy windmill. Whenever one shows up in like a D&D campaign, I'm like, yes! And this movie accomplished that. So, I don't know. I loved it.
And that kind of reminded me, like, that brought me back to, like, Frankenstein. Like, old Frankenstein.
Sure.
There's that burning windmill.
Yeah.
That collapse at the end. And, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, my God, he's referencing a lot of stuff in these movies. And it's just cool to see that.
I want to, like, make a T-shirt that just says prevent windmill cruelty or something, like, a PETA for windmills in movies in particular.
People against the cruelty of windmills.
Yes.
But I love so many things about this film, and just the fact that it's a movie that a filmmaker who knows their shit when it comes to horror movies could make.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, having him like watch the Hammer movies and have his production crew like watch these Hammer movies and say, okay, now make that, but like it's 1999, you know, everything that they had to be cheap on back in the 50s and 60s, like we got the money now.
No, I overall though, I love this movie from start to finish. I think that I would honestly love to see it get some more time in theaters around this time of the year. Like, I think that'd be really fun to see, like how they're doing with the Spider-Man trilogy right now. Give it some fun screen time because I think it would be appreciated. But I'm also a little biased.
So it did get re-released last November, 2024, because it was the 25th anniversary for it.
Sure.
Which, again, 25 years. But I agree with you. I think it really does have the legs to be a seasonal, spooky cult movie. It does have enough big name people in it, and it did not do shabbily at the box office when it came out. So it doesn't have that like, oh, it's a forgotten masterpiece, nobody remembers it kind of thing. But I think it's been around long enough that really it needs to have more time in the spotlight on an annual basis. Like you watch it, you're like, I am watching late fall Halloween. Like this is Halloween.
Yeah.
In a movie.
Yeah.
This is Halloween.
I was going to say, yeah. All right, we can go there. That's fine.
Tim Burton produced that movie, but he did not direct it. But yes.
That's awesome.
It really does have that staying power, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
In a movie that was made by a Hollywood studio with a director who had firmly entrenched himself in Hollywood at that time, even though his sensibility was very, classic and campy and all of that, and very gothy.
So one of the things, this is just kind of a side story I just wanted to throw in, because when you approached me about doing the show, there's a lot of neat films out there, and so one of the things that really drew me to think of this one was I actually got introduced to this movie ironically through a drumline performance when I lived out in California. So Winter Drumline gets a little crazy in California, where the show I was involved in was Final Fantasy, as an example. And I didn't know anything about Final Fantasy up until that. But the show, the season, the previous winter, was Sleepy Hollow. And it was incredible. So they had the creepy xylophone, piano, and synth going and stuff. And it was the most enchanting show I'd ever seen. And I'm like, I want to do that. So I signed up the next year and we did Final Fantasy music, which was equally cool. I do have a video of it somewhere. I'll have to dig it up. It's on high 8mm tape. But it was an incredible show. I wish I could have been a part of it because it was just gorgeous music. And that's what really pulled me to, I love the music. I listened to the soundtrack. I got to see this film. And so I probably saw that film probably like 2002, 2001, somewhere in there.
I think I did see it in the movie theater when it came out in late 99. It was essentially a holiday movie. So it came out right after Halloween. This is like before Thanksgiving. This is a Halloween movie. Yeah. Like this is as much a Halloween movie as Hocus Pocus. This is like very much like a Hocus Pocus kind of Halloween movie where you can just watch it every season, and just be like, yes, Halloween, pure Halloween. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about Sleepy Hollow?
Ultimately, just definitely, if you haven't seen it, you guys, give it a shot. It really is a lot of fun and just visually a treat. And it, in my opinion, it certainly holds up. Like, we don't need the latest and greatest, graphics and CGI and stuff like that to tell a good story and to have a real fun, timely piece. So I personally recommend it. I think Steve feels the same way. But yeah, give it a shot. Have a fun evening with it. It's available to rent right now on Prime for like $3 something. Otherwise, if you have the disc and you have a device to play said disc, go for it. Yeah.
I did want to mention a really cool quote that I found from Tim Burton in one of the interviews that I read from him. And he was talking about kind of the obsession with eyes in this movie, because there's a lot. So you have the eyes of the Headless Horseman. When you do see them, they're like these bright blue ones. You've got Christina Ricci's enormous eyes, falling in love at first sight. A lot of these things. And then, of course, the swamp witch's, crazy eyes that pop out. But he talks about this, and he says, you look at their eyes or face to categorize them, talking about people, talking about characters. But here you've got this powerful, elegant character without a head. The Headless Horseman represents the subconscious. Ichabod is the conscious mind, thinking too much, bullshitting his way through everything. And then you've got the Headless Horseman that is all action. And it's a cool contrast, and I like that he thought about that with his two characters. And, Ichabod spends most of the time either passing out, getting knocked out, or running away.
Oh, poor guy.
Until the end when he goes headlong into danger. Yeah. And is, doing his own stunts, by the way, on the carriage at the end during the carriage chase between the Headless Horseman and
crazy.
Young Mazbeth and Katrina.
Oh, it really was a fun welcome into the season. So yeah, again, for anyone tuning in, if you want to get into the seasonal mood, I'm biased. I think Sleepy Hollow's a gold medalist, but I gotta bow to the Council of Bears on this one, too. So
I think you'll find a lot of people agree. I think there's a lot of fans out there, a lot of bears who love this movie because it is campy, it is gorgeous, and just fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a fun film. So for fun blockbuster horror, like, this is one that's up there and needs to get more play. You've just listened to another episode of the Bear Cave of Terror, and if you haven't seen Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow, or after listening to us are struck with an irresistible compulsion to watch it again, it is currently not available as of this recording to stream. But hopefully we'll be gracing your favorite streaming service for the fast approaching Halloween season soon. In the meantime, you can purchase it digitally through most platforms or on disc, or if you have cable, it often shows on one or more of the movie channels. And John, if listeners would like to get in touch, how would they do that?
I'm pretty hard to find, so I do a couple of things on the internet. First of all, a comic book look. We've been rocking and rolling for many, many years, so I'm hanging out with the guys talking about comics. I also started up a side project that is going to get going, Comics by Night, rocking the t-shirt, and that's where I review spooky Marvel comics and whatever else I can get my little mitts on. Currently in the late 1960s, early 70s, so it's been a lot of fun so far. And finally, if you're interested in indie comic books, I am actually one of two co-founders of Bamboo Panel Studios. So we'll be rocking and rolling with some more signing events and selling events this fall, and then getting some more work out starting next year.
Awesome. That is, again, always so cool. And you can also follow us on the Bear Cave of Terror on Blue Sky and Instagram at Bear Cave of Terror. Or you can send an email to bearcaveofterror@gmail.com. A list of sources will be available in the show notes if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the production or the background of 1999's Sleepy Hollow. And I've been your host, Steve Morey. Good night, and make sure to keep your head firmly attached to your shoulders when traversing any twisted gothic forests. Good night, everybody.
What a goose